Looking out at all of you, I'm reminded of a survey that I recently saw. It asked Americans what they were most afraid of. Now, you would think that death is rather high on the list. Actually, it's not. It's about number 7. Do you know what the number 1 fear is? Public speaking, correct. That means if you believe the results of the survey, most of you would rather be dead than up here where I am right now. In the last 100 years, we have come close to almost doubling life expectancy. That's really an extraordinary accomplishment. So here we are now. Women still are outliving men by about 5 years. We've actually closed this gap a little bit. It used to be 7 years. It's now down to 5 years. I'm reminded of an editorial that an elderly male physician wrote recently in the British Medical Journal. He was asking the question, why is it that women still outlive men? And he went through all the possible theories and hypotheses as to why that's true, and he got to the end of the article and he said, you know what? We really still don't know. He said, it must be in the genes, that men are cut out for a short, brutal life, and women a long, miserable one. Well, we're trying to change all that. So, leading killers. Heart disease, right? Number 1 for men and women. Cancer. Stroke is number 3, and quite frankly, I don't know why. Now, I want to share something with you that's been a real epiphany for me, reading the medical literature over the last few years. What we've learned today is there's something that's even more basic and fundamental going on. It's called inflammation. When I was in medical school, they didn't teach us about inflammation. We didn't have this notion that inflammation could be a body-wide mechanism of action for many of the diseases we're living with. So, for example, if you have inflammation in your joints, what do you have? Okay. If you have inflammation in your coronary vessel, what do you have? Atherosclerosis, right. If you have, this gets a little harder, inflammation in the beta cells in your pancreas, and you can't make insulin, what do you have? Diabetes. What causes inflammation in our body? As you might imagine, it's got to do with our environment. So if you look at our basic way of living, the food we eat, the lack of exercise, the high levels of stress, all of these fuel this underlying pathology, which is inflammation leading to chronic disease. So, what's to be done about all this? Well, what I'd like to do with our time remaining is to concentrate on what I have learned from the literature, from the science. The science is overwhelming now about the 5 keys to optimal health. Number 4. You've all heard about the crossword puzzles to keep your brain young, right? Wrong. What should you do to stimulate stem cell growth in your brains and keep your brain as fit as possible? Sleep. Well, sleep's very important, no, but that's not it. Actually, sleep will not generate new stem cells in the brain. You've got to do 2 things. The first is exercise. Older people who exercise can recruit brain cells. It stimulates brain cells. Literally, it stimulates more stem cells in the brain. But here's the key. What you also have to do is take on a new challenge. Now, if you've never done crossword puzzles before, by all means do them. If you've been doing crossword puzzles for 10 years and you're great at them, you got to find something else to do. Let me turn to the 5th key, to do good unto others. It's about being connected to something higher than yourself. You know, in every single one of the great religions and great philosophies of the world, there is this edict to do good unto others. And we now have tons and tons of data that show us that people who are altruistic and give to others and serve their community are actually healthier physically, psychologically, they're far happier, and they have more gratitude in their life. It also helps weather the storms of your own personal life. So what I want you to think about here today is I want you all to think that you're 100 years old. Have I covered everybody? I know I've had to up the age, you know, as the longevity revolution has been in gear. You're 100 years old, and the local paper this afternoon, along with the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, are all going to come and interview you because you're someone world famous. You know, you're up there with Madonna. The first one, not the second one. And they're coming to interview you because you've left the world a better place. And what I want you to figure out in your own mind is what the interview is about. How have you left the world a better place? What have you devoted yourself to? What have you given in service of? Any questions?
You spoke highly of the Mediterranean diet. Any way you can work in red wine in that diet?
Absolutely. Wine is one of the 6 essential fluids in the world. Yes, red wine particularly does have very beneficial effects on the heart. Now, there's bad news and good news in this. The good news is that a glass a day does apparently help mitigate or reduce the inflammatory process and atherosclerosis in ways that we probably don't know completely yet. However, the bad news is, and some of you may have seen this on the news this morning, increasingly we are getting data that the amount that women can drink is fairly little.
I want to thank you for your wonderful work.
Oh,
I've been following your work since the 1970s when you were on television, and it's just wonderful. And you've helped me a lot. It's wonderful.
Thank you. That's wonderful to hear.
Thanks. This was so good. You were terrific, and you are terrific. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. What a wonderful program. Great learning experience. I really had a wonderful time.
Good, good.
Got a lot out of it. Thank you so
Excellent.
much.
Something there for everybody.
Wonderful.